Daniel Bwala reacts as U.S. Supreme Court delivers 2 judgments against Biden in 48 hours. Yesterday was reported by several news platforms that a sharply divided Supreme Court in the United States on Friday effectively killed President Joe Biden's $400 billion plan to cancel or reduce the federal student loan debts for millions of Americans. It was reported that the 6-3 decision with conservative justices in the majority said that President Joe Biden's led administration overstepped its authority with the plan, and it leaves borrowers off the hook for repayments that are expected to resume in the fall. However, while Daniel Bwala, who happens to be one of the official spokespersons to the People's Democratic Party's presidential campaign council, was reacting to this on his official Twitter handle yesterday, he said that within the space of 24 hours, the United States Supreme Court delivered 2 judgments against their incumbent President Joe Biden. Bwala said this development is the audacity of the judicial independence. He said judgments kicked against the race-based admissions into colleges and universities across or in the country, and also against the student loan debt relief plans, as President Joe Biden was obviously angry and due to that criticized the U.S. Supreme Court. He said, within 48 hours, the U.S. Supreme Court delivered 2 judgments against the leaning of the incumbent president, that audacity of judicial independence. The judgments kicked against race-based admissions into college and universities, and also against student loan debt reliefs. Further talking, Bwala said President Joe Biden was visibly angry and even criticized the Supreme Court, but he has to respect the decisions of the final court of the land. This is one of the elements that has made the U.S. the most or the greatest democracy on God's planet Earth. I think the perfect sentence that encapsulates and, really finalizes and communicates this situation is, quote, the audacity of the judicial independence. And this is obviously to point out, regardless of the fact that this individual has been part of the PDP, which is opposition to, which has been a major opposition to the current winning party or ruling party APC, so we can question the flawed and biased intent from this comment. However, the fact still remains that the judicial independence, is something that Nigeria should replicate, and if it's a democracy, must replicate, because the disrespect for the judicial system in the country is, first of all, I think, ridiculous. Ridiculous in the sense that from the most, okay, if you're going to rank, significant rulings to insignificant ones, from the insignificant rulings, you barely find people obeying court orders. Especially, it's a different thing if it's an organization, a body. They don't really have power to defend themselves. But with the lack of integrity, especially with other governing bodies, because for you to have power, it's not necessarily the fact that you enforce yourself or assert yourself as an organization. You can give orders, as the Supreme Court does, and all the courts in Nigeria, they can give orders, but if it's equal partners in governance, for example, the police, for example, DSS, as in major corporate, these are all bodies that because they're also well respected in their rights and in their functioning capacity. So if you have, bodies like the DSS, INEC, EFCC, if you have these bodies actually respecting the court orders, respecting what the court has ruled over a case and over a matter, then it translates. But because there's so much level of impunity, they make the courts look powerless and insignificant, because the courts can say, okay, and actually speak to these bodies. Whatever ruling they give, release this person, take this person in custody, and they just flout court orders. So I think, personally, for me, that's the example I can give that demonstrates a great disrespect to the judicial system. And, there's obviously a lack of respect. And because even in civil cases that do get to the Supreme Court, or, for example, cases that start off as a civil, but of course with the intensity and importance get up to the Supreme Court, we've seen cases where, people are so frustrated, people are bought out, the corruption, that exists within the system allows for, injustice, allows for frustration, which for a lot of people will just avoid going to court. When they say in Nigeria, if you don't agree, go to court, or the APC, and anyone that tells you go to court, it's not a thing where they're telling you go fight for your rights, because they own the court, they understand the game. So go to court basically means your efforts are going to be in vain regardless. So relax. Anyways, what do you think about this? Put it in the comment section below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.